This is Scott the Fix-It Guy. Today we have a Samsung washing machine that isn't draining. And these Samsung machines, also the LG machines, are very similar. And the drain pumps kind of stop working way too early, even sometimes by the second year. What I'm going to do in this instance, because I have a dryer on top, is I'm going to put a little bit of window cleaner. You could use Windex, any kind of slippery stuff underneath the feet. And I'm going to pull this machine out away from the wall by about probably 3.5 to 4 feet. And then I'm going to tilt it back so that I can get to the underside. And that's going to let me put in a new drain motor. I'm going to unplug it. And I'll turn off the gas going to the dryer by turning the gas valve down here. And then once I know it's unplugged and I have the gas off, I'll use a couple of wrenches here to loosen up this compression fitting on the gas line so I can get the gas line off. And I'm grabbing the entire washer and dryer and moving them away from that wall. And then I'm going to lean it back, and they're going to basically act like one unit. You got to be a little careful doing this. You got to make sure the washer and dryer are connected securely together. So once you get it back, you open up the door, and I usually reach in on the inside of the door and pull a little bit on the right, pull a little bit on the left to get the whole thing out. Be careful not to hurt your back. And then I'm going to lift up and carefully, slowly lean it up against the back wall. I want to make sure that it's balanced by itself. It's not going to fall forward, it's not going to fall back. It's also advisable to put something underneath it so that it wouldn't fall forward on you, because we're actually going to go underneath this. You could put a couple of cinder blocks, something to make sure you're safe. This is just a different way of getting to the pump. The conventional way is to remove the dryer and then remove the top panel and then remove the front panel, which is great. This is just another way to get in there. So I'm prying back with a standard head screwdriver on this plastic case that goes around the front of the drain pump. And then there's a couple of Phillips head screws I'm going to remove. And they're the ones holding the pump assembly up against the frame. So these are a couple of small Phillips head screws. The one on the left comes out easily. The one on the right, there's not much room to get in there, so you have to use a small Phillips head, and I used a little ratchet attachment to get in. So once this screw is loose, then the whole pump can be moved backwards a little bit to allow it to come out the bottom. And it is still connected by 2 hoses, or actually 3 hoses, and 2 power wires. So we have to disconnect some of those to get the pump into a position where we can change the pump motor. So we don't have to really remove the whole housing. Once we get that screw out and push it back, what I'm going to do is reach in and remove the power wires coming to the pump. I'm actually going to keep the 2 hoses connected to it, actually the 3 hoses connected to it, to the housing. There's a hose coming from the tub, there's one bringing water from the pump out, and one going up for recirculation. So there's 3 hoses, but there's enough room where you can, once you get the power wire off, you can get this whole housing out towards you with the motor pointing down, and then you can remove 3 Phillips head screws to remove the motor. It's actually pretty easy. Just take your time here. Again, make sure that this is all supported so there's no chance it could fall on you. You can remove those 3 Phillips head screws, and then we can get the motor out. And the motor is usually where the problem exists. I've already made sure that there was no clog in the system by removing the coin trap in the front, and that's really easy to do, and there was nothing in there, so we know that that wasn't the problem. So here's the motor, and it comes with a little plastic impeller. Here is the part number for that motor, and this works for, these are pretty cheap, probably $20 on Amazon, but they work for the LG machine, they work for the Samsung machine. Very similar. You might be doing this procedure where you lean the whole thing back because you don't have an ability to easily get the dryer off of the washer. So this is just another pathway in. So I'm hooking up the two power wires right here while I have good access to the motor before I put the motor back onto the drain housing. So I'm going to make sure those wires are really in there tight. And then I'm going to push this motor up into the housing. It has these little plastic tabs that help guide it in, so you'll make sure you have it in really securely. And then you want to push it in pretty hard in toward the housing as you attach these 3 Phillips head screws. And you want to put them back in where they came out. You want to pay attention to where they came out when you removed them. And we're putting the 2 little Phillips head screws back in the front to hold the whole pump assembly into position.
Load up our 12 conductors and bring it together into a cable.
So I just reached in and pulled it toward me and then put the screws in. Now I'm putting in the coin trap. Just going to screw that in, make sure it's in there really tight. And then here is the outside plastic housing. And you want to just get the little tube to go through there and then push it in, and it should click into place. I used a little standard head screwdriver to push it in far enough so it really clicked. And then once that's done, you can remove the bricks from underneath the washer that are helping to keep it secure, and then you can gently bring the washer and dryer back down by supporting it. I usually open up the washer door and I grab the washer frame so I have something to hold on to, and then I slowly bring it back down to the ground. Before I put it all back into position, I'm going to test it. I'm going to take the drain hose and I'm going to put it back into the drain in the wall. You may have to pull the washing machine in a little closer to the wall to make that fit. I'll plug it back in, and then I'm going to turn it on and let some water come into the washing machine. I'll just start a normal cycle. Once it has the tub partially or fully full of water, then I'll turn off the power. I'll turn the power back on and I'll press start. And the first thing that will always happen is it will drain any water that's in there because it thinks it's a new cycle. So that's one way you can just get the machine to drain right away. Some machines you can just set them to spin too and they'll also drain. So I turned it off, turned it back on. When I press start, first thing happens is the drain motor kicks in and I can hear it. I know it's working. I can hear the motor and I can hear the water moving and I can see the water disappearing. You can also take out the tube a little bit while it's running and just visualize that water shooting out. So we know that that pump's working good. Probably the old pump was just worn out or the impeller had gotten broken loose. So now I'm putting more of that lubricant on the floor, and then I'm going to push the machine back in toward the back wall. The way I do this is I'll push in a little bit on the right, push in a little bit on the left. Lubrication really helps. And I'll usually try to push a little down low with my knees so I have a lot of leverage, and I'll just go a little bit at a time. It is pretty heavy, but you can easily do it if you use the right technique. So once we get it back into position, we'll reattach that gas line for the dryer, make sure that's tight. We'll turn the gas back on, plug everything back in, put the vent tube back on the dryer, and we're good to go. So common problem with the Samsung and the LG, and not too hard to fix, pretty cheap, probably about $25 with shipping. Take you about 45 minutes to do the job. So we can see it's draining really good. It's fun to look in there and watch it, just see the water disappearing. Just want to warn you again, be very careful when you lean that back that you have something underneath it, because you'll be underneath it and you don't want that washer and dryer to slip or fall towards you. So thanks so much for watching. Good luck with your machine, and please subscribe to our channel when you get a chance. Thanks a lot.